talking about slope today. Can someone tell me what you think about when you hear the word slope?
Charts, like a
Okay? What do you think about? Something that's slanted?
Hard.
Something that's hard?
Something that slopes on a mountain.
Something that slopes on a mountain? Okay, I hope somebody would talk about that.
A slide.
All right, a slide going down that goes at a slope, okay?
Oh.
If you're on a mountain, what is something you could do on the
I
mountain?
got something on slopes. I got another one on tubing.
On a
Oh, you
mountain.
can fall.
You could go snow tubing. What else?
Yeah.
Skiing or snowboarding, okay? So today I want you to think about that as we are talking about slope. I was hoping someone would say something about a mountain, okay? I want you to write down this special formula that we've got today, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about a time that I went on a mountain. So I grew up in Oregon. This is a mountain actually in Washington. It's called Mount Rainier. And when we went there, this was taken probably about 10 years ago, there were these little chipmunks that were all over the mountain, and all we had were gummy snacks. And what we did is we put a gummy snack into our hand, and they would come and eat out of our hand. And my husband, Jacob, decided to put a gummy snack on my head, and you could see exactly what happened with that chipmunk that day. He wanted it so bad, he crawled up my arm and onto the top of my head just to get it, okay? So that's kind of talking about something that happened on a mountain, but I want to focus today about slopes, okay? When you're thinking about a slope, some people mention it, you can think about a hill, but it's something you're going up or down, okay? So there's a formula for slope. It's called rise over run. Everyone say rise over run.
Rise over run.
Now notice, when you're going up or down, that's going to be your rise, and when you're going left or right, that is your run. This is one of those formulas that you're going to have to memorize. So what's the formula for slope? Rise over run. Without finding the slope of the line, tell whether the slope is positive, negative, or zero. So each time we're going to be finding the slope, we'll use what formula, guys? Rise over run. But this is telling me I don't actually have to find the formula this time. It just wants to know if my answer is going to come out as a positive, negative, or a zero. So as you're thinking about it, in the red it says look at the line from left to right and then figure out what it's doing. So we talked about being on a mountain or being on a slope. So imagine that we've got here this little skier, okay? From left to right, which direction is this little skier going?
Down.
He's going downward. Is down a positive, a negative, or a zero?
positive, no negative.
If you're going down, you are going in a negative direction, okay? Think about just like a graph in general. So that right there, when we see a graph that looks like that, from left to right, if there's a little skier that could be sliding down the line and it's going downward, that will be a negative. Let's imagine our next graph. Here's a skier that is going cross-country skiing, okay? Is he going up or is he going down?
Going sideways.
He's going sideways. So do you think he's going in a positive, a negative direction, or not going at a slope? He's not going at a slope. That slope right there is a slope of 0 because it's not going up and it's not going down. As you know, with a slope, you have to have a rise. So it has to be going up or down. So then the next one, let's imagine that we've got this skier. He's down here at the bottom of a slope, and you are reading it from left to right. Which direction is he going?
0.
He's going up. So if he's going up, what would that be? Positive, negative, or 0?
Positive.
That's positive. So any kind of a line that you see that looks like that will be a positive slope. And that's how you can tell whether something's positive, negative, or 0. This is asking us to find the slope of the line. What is the formula for finding the slope? Rise over run. Every time I want you guys to go ahead and write the formula for me. So let's go ahead and write rise over run. Remember, in our notes that we wrote at the very top of our paper, the rise is when you move up or down. So what you're going to do is you're going to start at a certain point. I'm going to start at this point, and I am trying to figure out how much I have to rise and run to get to that point right there. Okay? So let's go ahead. Start with this one. We're going to count up how many times we need to move. Let's go up. Count with me. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I rose up 3. If I'm rising up, is that a positive or is that a negative?
Positive.
Positive. Okay, so my rise is positive. Now let's talk about my run. I'm going to stop from that very same point we were just at, and go backwards. Count with me till I get to the dot. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now here's what I want you to think about. Let's think about a number line, okay? So let's say I've got a 0 here, -1, -2, +1, +2. Whenever you are going in this direction to the left of the 0, is that positive or negative?
Negative.
It's always negative as you go to the left. When I go to the right, what is that?
Positive.
Always positive. So if I just went in this direction over here, was I going positive or negative?
Negative.
Negative. How many spaces did I move negative?
4.
-4. Okay, so now my answer, I'm just going to pull that negative out. That is -3/4 is my slope. Okay, -3/4. Now, I want you to erase or get rid of these dotted lines. I don't want to see the dotted lines on your paper, okay? Now, you might say, but what if I had decided to start at this point and go over there? Let's just look to see how that would have looked, all right? Let's count how many spaces we have to move downward. Count with me. 1, 2, 3, all right? So when I'm rising, I would have to rise 3. Is that going +3 or -3? -3 because I went downward. Now let's keep moving over. 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that positive or -4?
Positive.
Positive, because anytime that I'm moving to the right, it's in a positive direction. So now if I pull that negative out, you will see I have -3/4. Okay, once again, you're going to always get rid of this dotted line right here, but it doesn't matter if you start here and go to that point, or if you start here and move to that point. The slope is basically just trying to figure out how steep the line is that was drawn. Okay, so what is your slope? -3/4. Now remember, if I was drawing my little ski character, and notice he's going, what?
Downwards.
He's going downward. So should my answer be positive or negative?
Negative.
And did we get a negative answer?
Yes.
Very good. So just from looking at this graph, we should have been able to tell my answer should have come out as a negative. Okay, so problem B, what do I start with if I'm trying to find the slope? What's my formula? What is it? Rise over run. I want you to start with those words every time because that's just a reminder of what the slope formula is, okay? Rise over run. Some of you found this and did a fantastic job. So I'm going to start here and go that way, okay? Count with me how many places I have to rise.
6, 3, 4.
Okay, remember my whole goal is to get to that point right there. You can only do it going straight up and straight to the right, okay? So I rose or I went up 4. Is that positive or negative?
Positive.
That's a positive thing because I went up. Anytime you go up, it's positive. Let's count now how many places we go over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all right? 4 over 6. If I'm going to the right, is that positive or negative?
Positive.
That's a positive thing, okay? Now, remember, I've told you this in your math career from now until the end of your math career. What do you do if you have a fraction?
You have to
You always reduce it or you always simplify it. So what would that be?
2 over 3.
2 over 3, okay? So your slope is 2/3. Now, some people had said that they started at this point and wanted to go that way. If you did that, that's totally fine with me too. Just know I am going backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I'm going to the left, what would that be? -6. So I know that my run was -6. My rise was -4. And if you're dividing by 2 negatives, it turns into a what?
Positive.
A positive. So still, no matter what, when I reduce that, I would still get 2/3. Okay, so once again, it does not matter which direction you do. But remember, I want you to erase those dots right there so you have a nice clean graph. Draw the graph of the line that passes through the points and then find the slope of the line. So the first thing we need to do is plot these points. Looking at the first one, 0, 0. Where is that at?
In the center.
Okay, it's in that center. So we're going to just go ahead and put a dot right there. Next up, you are going to plot the point 5 and 4. Which direction should I go for the 5? Go to the right, 5, and then where? And then up 4. Okay, so over 5, up 4. Now that you have plotted both your points, you're going to connect the dots, just like we did before. Okay, so this line can keep going on and on in both directions. Now, it asks us to draw the graph, which we just did, and then it says to find the slope of the line. So now this problem looks similar to what we just had in the last couple problems. How do I find the slope?
Rise versus run. Rise over run.
Rise over run. So let's go ahead. Before we even start, if you see that something is a graph in this direction, should my answer be positive, negative, or zero?
Positive.
All right, so we know our answer should come out as a positive just by looking at it. Let's go ahead and just see how many we have to rise. Count with me.
1, 2, 3, 4.
All right. Is that positive or negative?
Positive.
Anytime you're going up, you're always going in a positive direction. Now let's talk about how many we need to run. We'll start from right there and count with me.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, so I ran 5. Was that in a positive or negative direction?
Positive.
Positive. Anytime you're going to the right is always positive. All right. So can that be simplified?
No.
No. What is my slope?
4, 5.
4 over 5, 4/5. Okay. Then go ahead and erase these lines right here so that your graph looks nice and clean. All right, and that is how you find the slope of a line that you have drawn yourself. This example asks us to draw the line that has the given slope and passes through the given point. So it really hasn't given us too much information aside from the fact that we know our slope is going to be -3 and that it's going to pass through those points right there, a 2 and a 5. So in the red, what does it tell me to do first?
Plot the point.
Plot the point, all right? So we're going to 2 and 5. Which direction do I go for the 2? To the right. Where do I go for the 5? Up. So I'm going to the right 2 and up 5. Go ahead and plot that point on your graph. Now, the next thing it tells me, from the point, follow the slope. What does it tell me my slope is?
-3.
-3, which looks a little different. Remember, what's the formula for slope?
Rise over run.
Rise over run. So if it says -3, how can I make -3 a fraction? Because I have to have a rise and a run.
-3 over 1.
I can make it over 1 and it's not going to change it because -3 over 1 is the same thing as -3. In your homework or a quiz or a test, if ever you got an answer that looks like that, I would want you to switch it instead and tell me your slope was just -3. All right, so can you guys imagine which, should my graph look like this?
No.
Why not?
Because you didn't do
That would be positive, okay? Should my graph look like this?
the... Yes.
No, my slope would be a 0. Should my graph go in this direction? Yes, because that, if you remember, you think about that skier who's up here, and if he's going downward, he's going in a negative direction, okay? So I know my answer is going to have to be a negative. Let's see what we come up with. I have to rise -3. If I am rising -3, which direction am I going?
Right.
I'm going down, because rising is up or down. So I have to go down 3. 1, 2, 3. And then I know that my run is 1. Which direction should my run go? If I went left, it would be -1.
Right.
If I go right, it would be +1. So I'm going to go over here. And now I will plot. That is where my second point needs to go. Now, whenever you're doing something like this and it asks you to draw a line, I want there to be 3 total points. How many points do I have on it right now?
2.
I only have 2, so we got to do that again. Rise over run. Which direction do I go for rising -3?
Up.
If I go up, it's going to be positive.
Oh, down.
Down. So now let's once again go down 3 and over how many?
1.
Over 1 in a positive direction. Plot your point. Now, I could continue to do this forever. I only want you to do 3 points, but you would go down 3, over 1. I could plot another one. I could continue doing this. Down 3, over 1. Does that make sense? But remember, I only require you to just do 3 points. Then, what do I have to do with those dots? You have to connect the dots, just like normal. What do I do with those little red dots? Erase them. Get rid of them so that you have a nice, clean graph. And then you know that this could go on and on forever. It could go up and down more. Okay, so as I look back at my directions, it says draw the line, which I did, that has the given slope. So that is all you have to do for number 4. Are there any questions of how to do that problem? All right, so tonight's homework, you're going to have problems that look identical to that. This is tonight's homework, which I want you to go ahead and do on graph paper. And write it down for me, please.